could just begin, or...
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I didn't get any of that on tape, but I don't think the world really needs more angry Star Wars rants. So welcome back to the Hack Fraud Show, everybody.
We're here. We're not quite queer. We don't need any more beer.
Well, here's the thing. We have a batting average of the former, and we do need more beer.
You can always use more beer. Anyway, we're talking Brian De Palma this week. I'm just. This
is the only kind of segue you can get on the Hack Fraud Show.
I'm just trying to get this thing back onto some semblance of rails here.
I think we're conceptualizing rails. I think we're putting them down soon.
It's the worst opening we've ever done. Anyway, Brian De Palma, director who came up around the same time as Scorsese and Spielberg, kind of made his bones in that era, but is never quite talked about in the same breath as those filmmakers.
If we are to make a sort of pantheon of quote unquote great 70s directors, he is notably B tier. And I think partially because the De Palma style it's a recognizable style for certain. But it's one that's sort of less marketable and less copyable than the Scorsese style, than the Spielberg style, and because Spielberg and Scorsese were marketable, especially Spielberg.
Well, Spielberg and Scorsese especially, even more so than maybe some of the other directors of that period, they also gravitated more towards kind of B-movie material, but they had a way of elevating it and treating it with a certain kind of reverence that Brian De Palma doesn't quite get to. I feel like
Brian De Palma's thing, and from what I've experienced, I've seen a bit of Scarface and the 2 movies that were assigned to us.
And the Untouchables.
Brian De Palma's thing seems to be with playing with B film, but never quite getting out of B film. Carrie is a genre film through and through. It kind of shifts what genre it is, but it is definitely genre film. Blowout is a neo-noir, just through and through from beginning to end, I think.
Well, sort of. I give Blowout a little more credit than that, and based on what you've said, I think I liked Blowout more than you did.
I have some issues with Blowout, but I think it's certainly an interesting movie.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, this will be fun to talk about, just because, I don't know, I think discussing any kind of filmmaker, on the level of De Palma is interesting, because I think the critical conversation about them, at least in my experience, is not quite as widespread or as maybe thoughtful as perhaps he deserves some credit for.
There's a lot put into Scarface.
Well, Scarface looms large in the culture for a lot of reasons. Many of them hip hop related.
Untouchables was sort of a mainstream movie.
Yeah.
He directed the first Mission Impossible movie.
He
whatever that means.
Directed the first Mission Impossible movie, which I still have not seen.
Never have I. He's always there. You cannot quite forget him, but he's just never broke through to sort of A-tier great filmmaker material.
Perhaps not. Although I would,
at least as far as what the strawmanish film discourse thinks of Brian De Palma.
Sure. So we'll discuss that more as we continue this episode. First, what we've been watching. For me, it's pretty sparse this week, actually. But John, I know you have some stuff to get into, so let's do it.
Okay. This movie I discovered because Brenna said, "Hey, John, I want to watch a movie." And I said, "Okay, this is going to be fun or not fun, because it's never fun to watch a movie with me. Never."
No, it's not.
So we pulled up Netflix, and I said, "Hey, what here looks good to you?" "I don't know." So I just took it and said, "All right, what's here that's actually good?" I stumbled upon Donnie Darko. And I'm interested in this movie because it's one of the... it's mainstream when you hear from it from high schoolers.
Yeah, fair.
That's how you know it's mainstream. But, you don't... There's no think pieces about it, really. It doesn't really get run on cable television, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, not in my experience either.
I really haven't seen it distributed anywhere mainstream. I didn't even really know what the poster was or any of that. but I heard the name, and I heard that it was weird. And it's weird for sort of surface level things, like, there's a man in a scary looking bunny costume. Baby Jake Gyllenhaal is giving like some creepy, somewhat Tobey Maguire-ish performance.
Yeah.
It begins with people saying the world's gonna end and the sky is gonna open up, and things like that. But at a certain point, the movie kind of slows down. It kind of gets into a holding pattern where it kind of looks at Jake Gyllenhaal as someone with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And you see parents dealing with that. You see his therapist dealing with that. You see sort of teachers dealing with that. You sort of see him interacting with his environment. There's a point in this movie where there's like this, I think it's a gym teacher who is like whole hog on this like Looney Tunes sort of self-help ideology of like fear and confidence or some bullshit like that. No, isn't like fear or happiness?
It's fear or love.
Fear or love. And there's like some like charismatic pseudo-Christian, evangelical Christian sort of like video maker who's like peddling these things, and he goes like to demonstrations, and you see baby Jake Gyllenhaal as like the titular Donnie Darko giving these sort of intellectual critiques of these things, because they are bullshit, and he says they're bullshit. But the movie also frames it as him as like volatile and vulnerable and like easily provoked. Like at one point, he tells like the gym teacher to shove it up her ass, and like and in one way the movie treats it as a joke, in another way it sort of treats it as volatility. In another way, you sort of see it as sort of a parallel between how the school treats him and how the parents treat him. Mm. But before I get in too much to make it seem like this is something like a 90s, we need to talk about Kevin, this is also a movie with a man in a bunny suit, and a giant hole opens up in it, and I think it's about time travel. And it has like a jet engine going through buildings, and like and the man in the bunny suit is called Frank, and it tells him to do crimes like flooding the school and burning down the house of the pseudo-evangelical Christian who turns out to be a pedophile and all that. And I think that's where the true strangeness comes in with this movie, is because this movie doesn't really end on a conclusion for Donnie. Mm. We're never quite confirmed that it is all the supernaturalness. You can easily read it as that because a lot of batshit crazy things happening. Batshit crazy things are happening. I don't want to elucidate too much. But you can also sort of relate it to and say sort of like, is it dream logic? Are we sort of seeing like alternate realities? Kind of like, what is this world we're seeing? Because in some ways it's very like stripped down suburban world with like a man in a bunny suit coming every once in a while. And I say the bunny suit a lot because that is oftentimes our only connection to the supernatural, except for some terrible 90s CGI every once in a while. But I think despite all that, I think it's a fairly ambitious movie with really good filmmaking. There's some really good shots in it. There's some really nice sound design. I think it's a very properly put together thing. I think it's just it's a really good mental illness movie for like as weird as it is, and how much it sort of comes down onto like mental illness as supernatural powers or something like that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of movies play with that sort of imagery.
Sort of like I think Legion is the first thing that comes to mind for me. Mm-hmm. Though like the X-Men sort of like are on the boundary of supernatural.
Yeah.
But I readily enjoyed it, even though sometimes I was just left going, what is going on? So I suppose it lives up to its weirdness, but it's more grounded than these kind of somewhat kind of allegorical, strange 90s movies typically are. Yeah. And I really admired it for that. So if you have any passing interest in it, I'd actually really recommend it.
Okay.
I had a good time watching it. Brenner thought it was a waste of 2 hours of her time, but
hated it.
You didn't hate it. And maybe I shouldn't put words in her mouth. So Brenna did hate it.
Okay. Well,
but I rather enjoyed it.
Well, your recommendation may be what I need to finally watch this, because I know it was pretty positively received by, more academic. I mean, the reaction to it is kind of hard to parse, because like it was a flop, but only because it was like released right after 9/11, and it deals a lot with like a plane crash, or is that right?
You know what? I think it was 94 that came out.
I'm pretty sure it came out in 2001.
I thought it was 2001.
Let me see this. Unless Netflix is just lying to me.
Netflix may well be lying to you. It definitely came out in 2001.
Yeah, Netflix just lied to me.
But then, like, also he put out a director's cut, and people really don't like the director's cut. So I don't know. It's a whole thing.
Given Netflix, I'm not sure if I watched the director's cut or the regular cut. You can never quite tell.
Was it under 2 hours?
Was it under or over 2 hours? I think it was over 2 hours.
Well, regardless, I'll watch one version or another at some point.
Yeah,
and
I think you get something out of it, particularly sort of like the middle bit.
Yeah.
The beginning and the end get really goofy, but maybe you get a kick out of it. There's something of a pulpiness to be gleaned from it, but also sort of like a harsh early 2000s edge.
All right, I'm there for that.
Take of it what you will. But Tyler,
yeah,
what have you been watching?
Not much is the answer. Although, obviously, I'm still on the Mad Men train, and I have also been watching the second season of Netflix's Glow, which just came out. If you may remember, I highly praised this show when its first season dropped last summer. It's still very good. Great ensemble work. Alison Brie, Mark Maron, Betty Gilpin, all the actors are still doing great stuff. Just in terms of like a show that really just has a sprawling ensemble of diverse female characters, it continues to be revolutionary in that regard. What it's doing, artistically, I'm not sure is quite as revolutionary, but it's just a really solidly, really told, really funny, just really well-written, intelligent show, and I enjoy it a lot.
Honestly, those are kind of at a premium, more than, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because even like some of our like big cinematic television just seems to be like filmmakers, sort of auteurish filmmakers given carte blanche and seeing what the fuck happens.
Yeah, no. In a world where our TV shows more and more are becoming just like 10 to 13 hour movies, I think this show is really a breath of fresh air. And again, like I can't recommend it more. Like everyone out there, give it a chance. The first couple episodes of both the first season and the second season are a little bit slow, but it does pick up and it gets much better, and it's really, I think it's totally worth watching. And
that sounds great.
Yeah, very, very, very good show. And let's see. I went out and I saw Sicario, Day of the Soldado, which, I wasn't expecting this movie to be great, although Taylor Sheridan did come back to write the script. And Benicio del Toro is back, and I liked the first movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
And based on the reviews, I was kind of expecting maybe a big, goofy, just maybe really dumb, but hopefully fun, dumb kind of movie.
It has a really up to 11 poster as well.
Yeah, the movie does not live up to that. God, this has just been the worst year for movies. Everything, all the major Hollywood stuff has just been one disappointing thing after the next. This movie is dull as a bag of rocks, and it's so dumb, and mind-numbingly dumb, and not in a fun way at all.
I have just been, this summer, I have never just been at a point where I've been like, man, there is nothing that catches my interest out there.
Mm-hmm.
Just nothing.
It's been
even the independent scenes. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it's good, but even I'm not gonna pay $10.
I mean, there have been diamonds in the rough, but if I were to make a preliminary top 10 right now, it'd be rough stuff. This really has just been a very, very underwhelming year. Sorry to Bother You goes wide this week, so I'm very excited about that. Haven't seen it yet. But
Yeah, that looks great.
but I don't know. Yeah, I will say this: the last like 2 minutes of Sicario 2 are like, okay, two things. First, the beginning of the movie is just like ludicrous. It starts with Islamic terrorists coming across the border from Mexico to attack the United States. I don't know what's going on there. Then they cut to a different radical Islamist attack in the US. Then it cuts to Josh Brolin in Somalia. This is all like within the first 10 minutes, by the way. Like, it is absurd just how much crazy shit happens in the first like 15 minutes of this movie, but yet the movie still can't like get into a mode where anything is actually exciting. It's just so strange. And then the last 2 minutes are so bad that it almost makes the rest of the movie worth it, but not quite. And so it's like not really worth seeing at all.
No, that is one thing I think. When has been the last like truly, excluding Valerian, because that was a fluke, when has been the last like true like big dumb so bad it's good movie?
White House Down.
I am typically like not a connoisseur of those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
I didn't see White House Down, so I can't speak to it. Maybe it was, but so I really don't know. But Valerian definitely is.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking like all of these things that just like err on just the bad side of mediocre mostly. That just sort of seems to be the studio. Because like they have enough people who know what they're doing to be able to look at ludicrous ideas and say no, but they can't do anything interesting because that's just not like, that's either not in like these massive franchise planning vehicles or just not deemed to be commercial or shit like that.
I have no idea.
Because sometimes I just want to go into a movie and I just want to vent onto it. I think it's cathartic.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be. I don't know. Most movies are just mediocre. Like, that's just how it works. And we tend to forget that when we're, like, living in the thick of it. Like, I happened to be looking through archival copies of The Hollywood Reporter this past week for an assignment. And it is shocking. Just like we forget just how many just instantly forgettable movies come out every year. Like it's been this way forever.
Well, you look at the fucking Academy Awards and you find films you have no memory of.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Who the fuck has ever watched Crash? Who's watched Crash since it won Best Picture?
Yeah, no.
Wait, it won Best Picture, and when did it win Best Picture?
Wasn't it 2006?
Yeah, it was in 2006. It was for 2005 because that movie came out in 2005. Yeah, it won Best Picture. Very controversially. People to this day, people are kind of up in arms about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's about it. Although, have we talked about Treasure Planet before on this show?
No. But I'm glad to talk about it.
Because I think I saw it before we started doing the podcast, and one of my roommates happened to be watching it this past week, so it kind of sparked my recollection. Have you seen it? Have you seen like any of it?
I've seen like a very old trailer over and over again.
I think I know exactly which trailer you're talking about, by the way.
I remember having seen it on TV. I was like a little kid. I think it was like in 4th grade or 3rd grade, or pretty small.
Okay.
It's been a long-ass time, but I remember like it left a big impact on me because it was pirate ships in space, and that's exactly what every 8 to 10-year-old boy wants in his life.
Yeah, well...
But I didn't want that.
Well,
and I'm sure Tom didn't either. Okay.
Well, I was about to say, the aesthetic of it all, and the design of everything, and the whole, like, pirate ships in space, that stuff's all cool if you don't... I
still really dig that. From what I've seen in the movie, I still really dig all of that.
I like it all in theory.
Yeah.
But, like, if you think about it for more than 5 seconds, you're kind of like...
Preposterous.
Yeah, I don't know. it's cool, but then you kind of start to think like, but wait, like what? Why would this is a sci-fi movie? Like, why would you not just like the whole supernova sequence where they're like they run into a supernova and it's this whole big thing and they have to secure everybody. That almost justifies it, but like I don't know. And the movie is just so at war with itself. Like, it's got this grand orchestral score by James Newton Howard with a great main theme, but then it also has songs by the lead singer of the Goo Goo Dolls that are so out of place in the movie. And
you're right.
I don't know, the movie has a lot going for it at times. I think the relationship between the main character and the Long John Silver figure is actually really kind of multifaceted and interesting. But, like, Jeffrey Katzenberg was right. Like, it's stupid. And also, when Martin Short Robot comes in, that pretty much just, like, takes the whole movie off the rails for me. Like, he is so terrible.
Yeah, everyone hates Martin Short Robot.
It is
I am
ludicrous.
interested to see it because, well, first of all, it's Disney just going completely off the fucking rails as far as like it's concerned. It's them doing somebody's goofy passion project, and I'm really behind that. No matter what movie it actually created, because Disney just doesn't do that for many reasons.
Yeah, you know, this is like the one Disney movie that I would actually be interested in seeing a live action remake of, because I think like you could give it kind of like a Guardians vibe, and like you could really play with the design of everything, and I think that could be really interesting.
See, like the whole thing of like a crescent moon from afar is actually a city.
It's
quite fascinating.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think there's some great ideas in it. I should probably just go back onto it because it just seems like one of those movies that is, well, it's a passion project movie, and I'm always fascinated by those.
Yeah.
Because what you're passionate for doesn't always make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And those are just and to try and look at those from a filmic perspective is always just going to create sort of like whiplash. So I'm going to see it just out of curiosity, probably at some point.
Okay.
Brenna, have you ever seen Treasure Planet?
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times. I watched it probably like 5 years ago. The last time.
Okay.
I remember not really liking it.
Okay.
I like that whole steampunk aesthetic of it.
Well, it's not even really steampunk,
but
really.
It's boats in the sky.
It's Star
It's
Star Trek meets Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know whether you can call that steampunk.
It has the aesthetic.
I have it on good authority that it's more accurately qualified as diesel punk.
Okay.
Daniel is very into all the different.
Barely a fucking difference.
Yeah, I know. Well, Daniel is very into the kind of minutia of the different punks and whatnot. So I've gotten an earful of that on more than one occasion.
Look. My passion is like the 18th century palace architecture. He has diesel and steampunk. So.
Yeah. I have never really fully gotten on board with steampunk. I think it has led to good things, but like in principle, I just think it's so dumb.
Well, I mean, it's a great foundation. I think, like the idea of this idea of the Industrial Revolution never ended.
Mm-hmm.
I think is great for visual possibilities. You just can't make it like people are wearing goggles, top hats, and riding on steam trains with a billion wheels. Like that's like bog standard like steampunk. I am just not on board with. But Hayao Miyazaki brings you steampunk.
Yeah.
Now that is something I could pray to.
Now, what I will say is, I do kind of enjoy the other mid-2000s Disney movie that kind of traffics in steampunk, which is Atlantis: The Lost Empire.
I have never seen Atlantis: The Lost Empire.
I have never seen that either.
You've never seen it? Oh, do yourself a favor. I mean, it's like not good, but like it is a lot of fun to look at and to kind of get swept up in like the adventure-ness of it all. Like
the side characters it has seem to have a cult following online.
Oh, they're great. That is kind of my Treasure Planet, because like one of my roommates like really loves Treasure Planet, and I ride much harder for Atlantis.
Well, I remember just hearing the line like, "Well, we never blew up anyone that we knew." And just thinking, like, these are some great lines. I probably should see this movie.
Yeah. That would be an interesting double feature, actually. The kind of mid to late 2000s, or, well, not mid to late, early 2000s Disney misfires that are somewhat tied into steampunk.
Yeah, well, I would also argue that Disney can never really have a misfire because the sheer amount of, like, marketing they pour into these things. Like, somebody is going to see them. Like, Disney can never make a movie and have it disappear just because of the nature of what they are.
I suppose not, although the accountants who did the box office results for Treasure Planet might disagree with you.
Yeah. I think you're right, but...
Anyway, all right, so let's transition into Brian De Palma once again. Hopefully more gracefully than we did last time.
Return the new Hollywood.
Yeah, to some degree. So, what should we talk about? Do you want to start with Carrie? I kind of want to start with Carrie.
I'm going to start with Carrie.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so Carrie, 1976,
Yep.
based on Stephen King's debut novel, first
Yes.
adaptation of a Stephen King book, first of many, of course. And so this movie, it kind of like looms large in the culture to some degree. Like, I knew the broad strokes of it going in,
Same.
pretty much beat for beat. It kind of
it's kind of a perfect like vehicle for a Stephen King adaptation. Is kind of a perfect vehicle for Brian De Palma because like Stephen King novels, like whatever you can say about them, they're like deeply pulpy and deeply like tied to like genre and sort of like the idea of like this twisting the small town, that sort of thing. I think that's kind of perfect for De Palma.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
a little bit, yeah.
These being the only two Brian De Palma movies I've seen, but he seems to really grasp this material in a solid way that not every director could do, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, broad strokes of it all. You have Carrie White, very timid high school girl, bullied by her classmates, abused by her fanatically religious mother.
Also extremely sheltered to the point of not knowing what periods are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think partly... I kind of want to start on that opening scene.
All right, sure.
Okay.
Because there's some... and I think that says a lot about the De Palma look, is because... That sort of scene is like, here we are in 1976. We had our discussion about sort of nudity on film back in 71 with Last Picture Show.
We did.
And here we are 5 years later in 76, and De Palma seems to have captured the nude form on scene. Like, it is like every like teenage boy's vision of the girls' locker room, of people like rubbing their breasts and posing and so forth, and giggling and all that sort of like you can just almost see like little 10-year-olds like with the goggles on top of the lockers. That sort of shit.
Yeah.
But then we like hard transition into Carrie has her period. Like we have like the very graphic sort of sensual, her washing herself, but then we see the blood.
Mm-hmm.
Which must have been shocking for Christian moms in 1976 who just wanted to go to the movies.
Uh-huh.
But then sort of see we have the realization, wait a minute, she doesn't know what periods are. And she starts freaking out and saying, like, I'm sick, there's something wrong with me, somebody help me. And that hard transitions into harsh bullying from this fantasy girls' locker room where they start throwing tampons at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which seems to be just completely within the mold of like taking sort of like porny B-movie material and then just completely twisting it on its head.
Yeah,
but then it becomes a new genre, which is the high school drama.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there with like the way he shoots that kind of opening credits sequence. It's like very much like kind of a like sort of almost old school porn kind of feel for a minute.
You can almost imagine like the
and he's kind of playing with your expectations of like what this movie is about to be, and then subverts them immediately.
Yeah.
Which is
in a very effective way. In a very sort of like it's shocking today.
Oh yeah, no, it's a very effective way to start a movie and to kind of jolt the audience right away and kind of make everybody sit up. Something that also like people of this period, like John Carpenter, was also very good at.
Yeah, very good. Like, essentially, like, everyone loves like that opening sort of like POV from which De Palma plays reference to in Blowout.
Yes, we will get to that. So, so it becomes like a dual sort of like high school movie mixed with like this kind of weirder, more like supernatural and like dramatic story with Carrie and her mother.
Almost like a monster movie flipped up on its head.
Yeah.
You know, the middle of this movie, just from a pure structural standpoint, it almost turns into the sort of thing that you would have seen in like the Disney Channel in 2009 of like person like put into her place that uses like magical powers to get revenge on all the people that wronged her.
Mm-hmm.
We're like in a very sort of like charming, like, ooh, look at me, I'm making my mother watch as I make this magical Cinderella dress, that sort of thing.
I don't know if I agree with the Disney Channel comparison, but I guess I sort of see what you're saying.
But then the ballroom scene happens.
Well, let's back up for a minute.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go through a few more of the beats here.
Certainly.
So, I think the part of the genius of this movie, really, and I really thought this movie was really great.
I think so.
I had a couple of minor issues with it. I'll get to those in a minute. But the way that it kind of takes its time, like, when you think about it, like, not a lot really happens in this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
sort of like big, sort of wild, sort of genre twisting, oh my god, what is this movie? It's mostly at like the last like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the first like 2.
Right, yeah. And like the way it kind of just like there's that very long scene of like the gym teacher like making all the popular girls like run and do all these exercises as like punishment for, you know, how they treated Carrie.
Yeah,
and,
which is sort of like Schadenfreude for the audience.
right. It's that, but also it's like I was kind of like, okay, I kind of get it. Like, why is this scene like still going on? But then when that girl, I think her name is Chris, right? Played by Nancy Allen, who De Palma would go on to pair her and John Travolta again. I assume based on this movie. Like, she has her kind of outburst, and then that kind of plants the seeds for her whole like revenge scheme for Carrie, which really just all ties together beautifully. Like the way this movie just kind of sets everything up and kind of lets it play out at its own pace, I think really works very, very well.
Oh yeah, well you sort of the movie always like lets you see the cogs turning, and also like it's not the movie never shies away from portraying like these teenagers as like these deeply shallow, just sort of spiteful people. Like it sort of captures that sort of maliciousness of adolescence that we can sometimes forget. But also sort of like that. I think Carrie sort of serves at like that supreme. Innocence is the word here. I wanted to find another one, but kind of innocence is that word.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, she isn't a very like that, you know, innocent figure. And then I think, you know, for a while it's just like a very sweet kind of like it becomes like a very sweet movie for a little while. Like
you're right.
She goes to the prom with this popular guy who has been like talked into taking her by his girlfriend, who I guess I didn't know. Like Sue Snell is just like a really like nice, like straight ahead kind of character.
Well, that's the thing. Like the movie starts and you're just like, oh no, this is like one of those like she must be in cahoots with like the blood people and so forth. But no, she just wants to help out, and like when the prom comes, like the date is like very forthcoming and very supportive and very complimentary, and you think like, oh, what a sweet movie this has become. It's a shame I know the ending.
Well, yeah, it sets you up beautifully because like De Palma gives you like just enough that you like you know what's gonna happen, and then you're seeing all these scenes, but it's always lurking there under the surface.
Well,
just like
there's like some brilliant shots of like we pan up to the blood.
Oh
and
and
we zoom into Carrie.
These two movies like really show off his like visual dexterity very, very well.
These are like very gorgeous movie that like, and they know how to fucking use the zoom.
Yeah.
Because like there's a lot of movies at this time period that's kind of fucking around with zooms because it's kind of like a new Hollywood like, woo, we don't have to move the camera thing, but like De Palma knows how to pull things from that.
Yeah.
Even like an earlier movie that we did, when you said zoom, it kind of reminded me of like how they did the zoom and mash, where it's just zoom, there it is, move on.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, actually. I'm going to kind of jump ahead here just for a second. But Blowout was shot by Vilmos Zsigmond, who worked on a number of Robert Altman movies.
Okay.
And Robert Altman, like, you're kind of right, Reed. I think he would kind of hone his, like, zooming style, like, as time went on. I think it works really well in McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which Zsigmond also shot. By the way, Vilmos Zsigmond, between Blowout and McCabe and Mrs. Miller, is now officially, like, one of my favorite cinematographers in history. I think just what he does, what he brings to the table in terms of the intricacy of the camera work is brilliant, although he did not shoot Carrie.
Interesting.
But yeah, you're totally right. Like, just the way in which De Palma, like, maneuvers the camera is just really spectacular.
Because like some shots in this movie are like dead still. And like it lingers on, and other times it's like whooshing around. We see like montage of lips, and we go up the rope and things of that sort. I'm like switching, like he does a lot with POV as well. Yeah,
it's all very, very well done, and like just the technicals of it all, and also boy does he love those split diopter shots. I don't know, that's just something I noticed. But anyway, yeah, so then when you get to the kind of the big explosion of it all.
And it is literally an explosion.
Yeah. I love that bit where she just destroys John Travolta and Nancy Allen in their car, where like with the zoom ins and the quick cuts and all that stuff.
It's both like really pulpy and goofy, and also like you can also just get like oh boy, she's a murderer. Oh boy, this is the movie I'm watching.
Yeah,
like, this movie handles dark comedy very well, I think.
It does, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's all like stuff that like could very easily be played for laughs and is sometimes, but also like De Palma's also very good at like just really never like taking you out of Carrie's point of view, like really, and never letting you like not empathize with her to some degree.
Well, I think part of it's also just pure sound design. Like I think there's like that genius a bit where like after the blood pours, you just hear the bucket over and over again, just like, and you just hear it like clank against that wood just again and again, and like scenes that would have music are just left silent. And like all we're left is just like Carrie, this small figure walking on the road before John Travolta comes in trying to run her over.
Yeah.
And all of that is like deeply affecting, especially once we get back into that house with the comedic amount of candles.
And knives.
Yeah, knives.
The knives are more normal. I feel like half of this movie was greenlit because they found just a really creepy, great crucifix to use.
Oh, yeah.
That is pretty great. So, I guess what I will say is that minor issues with this movie, I think, like, I mean, the B-moviness of it all, for the most part, works really well. I think there's a couple spots where it kind of goes too far. Like I'm trying to think of, like, what the example was. Like, I don't know, all the stuff with the mother, like, I get why it's so extreme, but it's almost just, like, a little too over the top.
Yeah, it feels that way.
It's a pulpiness that feels gleaned directly from the Stephen King text, and I haven't read the Stephen King book, obviously.
Yeah, nor have I.
So I can't really report on that, but that feels like a very Stephen King-y, like, religious straw man sort of thing. And I can't say it's not fitting, like, and it never quite plays the abuse for comedy.
Oh, no, certainly not.
It's extremely over the top, but it's also, like, deadly straight, and also sometimes that extreme cruelty can lend itself to truly tragic scenes.
Yeah, and I think really in the end it ultimately works to the movie's benefit, because, like, for Carrie to, like, really go this crazy at the end, you really have to believe that, like, she has been this repressed for so long.
I think, like, and also if we feel sorry for the mother, I think that makes the ending work less.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. And I remember now. The other thing that it goes a little too far, I would think, the whole thing, like, right after she gets the blood dumped on her, where it does the kind of kaleidoscope and, like, the whole like audio montage. like it in theory, but like again,
Yeah,
it just seems like a little too much.
I don't really need that.
Yeah, no, neither do I.
I just felt like De Palma was in the editing bay going like, we really need to make this big. What do we got? Ooh, I like that effect.
Yeah, but really those are like minor quibbles. I really did like this movie a lot.
I have some issues of kind of like the B movie ending, like the full jump scare ending.
Yeah,
I think that was the first time, at least in a while, or maybe in this podcast history, where like I was like genuinely scared by a movie that we've watched. Because I wasn't expecting it, and then suddenly Hannah and I jumped.
Well, it's a high school movie that turns into a horror picture, and like that, the horror becomes something of a mystery reveal.
Sure.
I think I understand, like why he had that. Like, I think it's sort of to like communicate like, oh, like she'll like never really like move past this. Like, this is something that's gonna stick with her like for the rest of her life. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And I also get it from a stylistic standpoint. I just think that's like it's like The Mother. It's just a bit too extreme for me.
I can see that. I don't know if it was completely necessary, but like, I don't know. I can see like why he would also have like felt the need to like kind of put a button on things to some degree.
Oh, certainly. Because like there was a certain bit like, are we just gonna see the house sink and it's gonna like fade to black?
There is something to be said for endings like that, but again, I can see why he did it. Garrett, do you have any other notes to share?
Yes. So like, if you want to go back to like the source material for this, Stephen King. This is obviously early, and he writes a lot about monsters, but not like Frankenstein or Dracula, more people-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And this is certainly
his books are just full of like over-the-top bullies and like religious nutcases, and like I think the entire point of it is like the entire town is against these kids and shit like that.
Well, sure, but it's also like that. Like it sort of seems that these monsters are more human than we perceive them to be, and then sort of the Palma and screenwriters sort of take it all the way, sort of like at least how I felt is that I could sympathize with Carrie to some extent, and then that just goes away the moment she gets doused in pig blood.
Well, there's something to be said about like this movie feels like it could do that sort of like genre reveal of sort of trying something that they would probably do in like I've never seen the modern remake of Carrie and I don't give a fuck. But like if they were to make this like movie in 2018, you get the feeling that they would try to make the mother more sympathetic and try to make that a sympathetic monster.
Actually, I do have some bad news on that.
Have you seen the remake?
I accidentally saw the first like 4 minutes of it and then realized, wait a minute, this is the wrong version.
Wait a minute, this is shot digitally.
Yeah, this is shot digitally, and it's a smartphone. Fuck no, this is in the 1970s. Start over. Yeah, so they showed similar scenes as the 76 version, only that they also included a scene of what might have been Carrie's birth.
Interesting.
And the mother wanting to kill the baby, but then said, no, let's raise it. And it's like, what?
That's really interesting. That's very, very interesting. You know, I almost think it would be like a compelling case study to like compare the two, just to see how much like filmmaking has kind of changed and like the cultural depictions of, you know, certain things that have changed like in the intervening years.
But though I'd also argue that like the taboos set forth by Carrie aren't actually haven't really become non-taboos since then. Like the only thing I can think of in the movie that wouldn't fly today is there's the principal smoking on school premises and the teachers beat the kids. Those are like the only things I think wouldn't fly today.
Well,
Everything else, I think, are still kind of taboos. Like we still don't like to talk about religion. Nobody's out there talking about periods.
well, it's not so much that stuff as like I think I remember like Darren Franich talking about this like the high schoolers in the remake are like supermodel level like looking people. Like that's more the sort of thing. Like the way like coding and like actual like I don't know, just the way our movies are kind of put together in the minutia, I guess.
Sure.
Maybe I should watch 5 minutes of it and sort of see. So I'd rather not watch the full thing.
And then just one more thing. Sort of going back to Kane as well, going back to the source material, whatnot, and sort of thing that what that Palma really shows are sort of the like 3 levels of fear theorized by Kane. So there's the gross out, pig's blood, check, just like sheer terror.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait, hold on, no, it's like well, it's more like the freak out kind of fear, and then you see that in like several close-ups, especially in that scene. And then you see terror, which is more or less fear of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Best sort of exemplified by walking into your house and then realize everything has been replaced with an exact copy, sort of like creepy terror. And that also kind of manifests itself. And I was interested to see how De Palma worked with that, especially with King, especially with early King.
Yeah, that's really cool, actually.
Yeah,
it's fun to think about.
We don't really go into like movies as adaptations much anymore.
Yeah. It's well, I mean, Stephen King has just been like so thoroughly like he's such a pop culture like figure now, like in a way that he wasn't at this time. And
well, like was it ever marketed as like a Stephen King adaptation? Because like typically they would like be like big like Stephen King's it, like that sort of thing.
I mean, not to that degree, I assume, but like the book was a success, and I think they probably would have like
it was adapted into a movie.
Well,
so.
yeah, but like I mean,
I think that by the time Misery became a movie, Kane was really big, especially by it for sure.
Yeah.
I think this movie is a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's I don't know if I would.
It was a good watch.
It's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah.
That score is also a thing. The score in both this and Blowout was like, I was kind of like, oh man, maybe you should have mixed that a little bit better.
Especially considering Blowout's about sound editing.
True.
But here we are. I sort of take. Sometimes you just take sort of like these scores with. It's kind of like when you hear like a classical Hollywood story. You just kind of tune it out.
I guess, yeah. So, shall we move on to 1980?
Is it 81?
Was it 80 or 81? I can't remember. 1981. Blowout. Yes. Okay.
Hey.
Now, you've seen Blow Up, right?
I have seen Blow Up.
And you can confirm or deny. This movie is pretty explicitly based on Blow Up. Am I right about that?
I do not have enough memory of Blow Up to really quantify that.
Okay.
All I remember in Blow Up is that like there's a guy who takes pictures and people get murdered.
Okay. Well, from what I understand, this is somewhat based on Blow Up, but mixed with some other things. Anyway.
Yeah, I kind of describe it as a lot of the conversation meets some of adaptation.
Yeah, well, it's very much drawing on the conversation. It's drawing on Hitchcock. A lot of that stuff all kind of blended together in a way that I thought really worked. So I kind of want to take point on this because I really...
you can sort of begin with your...
I liked this movie a lot. Like, I really thought that... I really thought that, like, everything was kind of, like, working mostly full tilt in this movie. Like, it looks great. We've talked about it. Like, Vilmos Zsigmond, the cinematography, the look of it is fantastic. I especially, like, love the way movies around this time look. Just the look of the film and stuff around this time is great.
The reds and the blues.
Oh,
in every frame. It is a gorgeous film. I will not deny it.
Yeah. John Travolta and Nancy Allen, I thought were both great. Okay. We're gonna.
I like John Travolta when he's messing with film and sound. Watching him go to work is a joy to watch, in my opinion. So I will give it that.
I'll get to that.
I really just liked all the trappings of it, like the setup of it. I love, like, a movie sound guy just accidentally records something and just gets drawn into this conspiracy.
Yeah.
I loved all that, like just the political elements of it all, like not super like nuanced, but I was okay with that. Like I think for the movie, for what it is, it works really well.
I would argue it's barely political at all.
Well, yeah. It's
but it's all about like conspiracy and like secret society. Not so much secret society, just like is it about a deep state?
No, not a deep state. It's more just drawing on like the ephemera of like the Kennedy conspiracy theories and stuff like that.
Conspiracy thriller. That's really funny.
So yeah, I really liked it. I mean, it's not perfect. Like the score is a little much. The ending I thought was a little too much for me. I don't know that I quite buy just kind of the melodrama of it all. But although the very end where they
uses the scream from an actual murder in his B-movie sex thriller.
I kind of appreciated that bit though. Problematic perhaps, but I mean, I don't know. Not in like a harmful way. I don't know. I think
I don't think anyone's gonna actually go out record murders and put them in their movies.
Yeah,
I'm not
no.
saying that at all. I just think it's weird.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, but I think it fits enough with like the tone of the rest of the movie to work. That's just my opinion. But I don't know.
Maybe.
So yeah, those are my thoughts. I take it you two did not enjoy it nearly as much as I did, so go ahead.
Okay, I don't hate this movie.
Okay.
I don't think it's an invalid movie. I don't think it's something. I don't want to bury it. I don't like disparage any people who made it. That's first off. This movie is at its best when it's just the conversation. When it's just like John Travolta just kind of in the editing bay, just sort of like going back with sound, and just sort of like running, and it does like split diopter, and it does a lot of split screening and all that sort of thing, to try and like show like John Travolta's like gears turning as he tries to like solve this conspiracy thriller without words, without anything, just with the mechanical. And this is a time when film is purely mechanical.
Yeah.
Of like going through video, of getting sound.
God, I love all that stuff with the old school film equipment and all that stuff. Like seeing him actually pull sound effects off of tape, like that's I love it.
You get like that gears, and you see him like twisting buttons and like rewinding and like so forth. That wonderful. There's like a mechanical zing to this movie that is just excellent. I adore all that.
Yes.
And I also love the setup. Like you said, I love the setup of guy from like sleazy B-movie like sound editing goes out just to get some fucking wind, and he accidentally records a murder.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Love that. That's how all like the best noir starts.
With an accident.
Yeah.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Or maybe not so.
Now, from there, it becomes a conspiracy thriller, which I have no problem with.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's fine. It's sort of all this kind of movie is sort of like a B movie blender, not unlike Carrie. That's fine. This movie spends so much fucking time on just the bullshit of like this crazy ass conspiracy thriller of like who's involved, who's this like pseudo like sleazy photographer, who's the people on like the pay phones and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like when it is on that, I'm just like, God, what is this? Like, I don't care about the conspiracy thriller.
Okay.
I'm here caring about John Travolta trying to figure out the conspiracy thriller. The problem is, he kind of figures it out halfway through.
Yeah.
And the movie kind of confirms that.
Mm-hmm.
And it pretty much then becomes like John Travolta running around saying, "People are after me. I have tapes. Believe me." For like 40 minutes at least.
I can see why that would be frustrating. I kind of go in for that sort of stuff. Like, I don't know. I found it to be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, well, I just found it just somewhat. I just found like it just repeats itself too much. Like the movie just kind of the movie just seems really interested in the Nancy Allen character for a while, which isn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like how visible she is. I like how like we kind of dive into her, like how in other movies she would just be like just something shoved off to the side, a tool in this big conspiracy.
Yeah,
she actually becomes a character. We see her like manipulating that. But there's just like this long ass scene where she's with with like a sleazy photographer who like takes pictures of, who like sets up people and takes pictures of them in affairs and shit like that and makes money off that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like this long ass scene of him just kind of flouncing about with like this horrible like pseudo Philadelphian accent, just sort of talking about his business and talking about his time. And I'm like, I don't give a rat's ass about any of this.
Mm-hmm.
This guy needs like 2 minutes of screen time. And that also leads me into the bit, like, I think this movie is just kind of unnecessarily dark. Mm. Not to, like, a harmful degree. I'm not saying that. Like, there's a point in this movie where, like, that sleazy photographer tries to rape Nancy Allen. And I'm just like, what is this at?
Yeah,
What are we trying to say here? It's just kind of darkness for darkness' sake. And I think what you're making is kind of a B-movie blender, that sort of darkness eventually works against you. And it eventually just kind of becomes unpleasant.
And that's especially true for how the ending went when bad guy killed, but then your love interest also died before you could even save her.
Yeah. Though sometimes this movie does have a great grasp on the kind of like dark comedy that Carrie had, where like the man literally stabs Liberty Bells into like his victims.
I love that.
Great detail, great like wonderful like sleazy B-movie material, great stuff. But there's also the scene where like he leads Nancy Allen into like the subway, and I'm like, okay, did she just lose did she get lobotomized on the way here? It's just like, it'd be one thing if you're doing like B-movie homage, that's fine, but it just goes on forever, and you just see like John Travolta running out, just out of breath, and I'm like, Brian De Palma, you know how to edit these things. Like, no B-movie would spend this amount of time on this, I don't think.
Well, maybe not, but I do see what you're saying, and I don't think any of these are unfair criticisms, I will say that.
Yeah, and to get on the melodrama, this movie becomes just pablum for like a small while of like John Travolta running to him as fireworks playing. We have the big spinning shot.
Brian De Palma does tend to
through the parade and then crashes.
Actually, that's a great B-movie thing. I defend that. Him driving through the parade, I think is great.
Brian De Palma does tend to maybe lean a little too heavily on like the slow motion and the grandioseness of it all. I will give you that.
It also like cuts to him in like the snow and like morning, and it's not quite campy enough to like to sell it as like cool.
Again,
like, it wants to be like A-grade schlock.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it wants to be, and that's when it's at its best. When it's like people like stabbing Liberty Bells and people, that's all great. But like that stuff just not campy enough. They just don't lean into it enough. There's just not enough really said about it. I don't think. They have chemistry, but I don't buy them as like a couple. They're like a cop duo, not like a couple.
Yeah,
I don't really buy him going like, no, my wife is dead over that.
No. Again, like I agree. Like the ending of this is like the part that worked the least well for me. Although I do love just kind of for the sheer like over the topness of it all, just the giant like circular dolly shot with the fireworks in the sky. I kind of love that, but.
I love it as a visual creation.
Yeah, exactly. Like that.
And also, for as much time as it spends on just like this conspiracy bullshit, which like neo-noirs get like all hung up on details and shit like that all the time. So I'm not that against it. But for all the time it spends, it just drops it. Like at a certain point, like the movie just ends, and we kind of just don't care anymore. Like whether the public finds out. And after that, there's so much time with them like fucking talking to the reporter and that whole subplot of him first going to the office, and then John Travolta calling, and then waiting for a call. Now, at some point, you can talk now.
I'm sorry. No, just here's what I want to say about that.
Yeah.
What I kind of like about all this is that I think you actually kind of hit something here, which is that, like, the public doesn't find out about the conspiracy.
Yeah.
Like, it ends with, like, this news report where they're like, oh, and the tragic death of the senator, like, blah, blah, blah. Here's what I like about that. For all the time that Brian De Palma, like, spends on, like, kind of unfolding this conspiracy and whatnot, and then to kind of undercut it completely with just, like, it not really paying off in any significant way, I kind of think that might be the point, and I kind of like that. Like, I like that, like, and also you bring up, like, kind of the darkness of the movie. I kind of like all that stuff, too. The rape thing is a little much for me. I will agree with that.
The rape thing is the one thing where I'm like, really?
Yeah, no, I agree.
There's some other things here and there.
He has those instincts, it seems, and also based on what I know about Scarface, like, it seems
those instincts are turned up to 11 in Scarface.
He has those instincts that maybe he sometimes has a hard time tamping down, but regardless, like, I think that the movie is really, like, very cynical in the end.
It is.
And I appreciate that. Like, I don't know. That all kind of works for me. And then just the intricacies of the conspiracy also, I just find that really fun.
Oh,
like, and, like, this movie has a lot of really great, like, setups and payoffs. Like, the whole thing with the Liberty Bell stabbing. Like, the first scene the first hint you get of that is just, like, John Travolta, like, looking at the Liberty Bell sign. And I was kind of like, what's happening here? And then later on, you get that news report about the stabbing, and I'm like, oh, that's what that was. That was brilliant. So I don't know. I kind of
that's the serial killer Liberty Bell stuff. That mostly works.
I don't know. I guess I just kind of go in for more of all that stuff than you do, which, you know, is fine.
I just wish it leaned more into that because, like, the movie kind of has its, like, nail on the head cynical moment of John Travolta putting a murder scream in his B movie. Actual conspiracy theory, like, actual, like, physical crime evidence being used in pablum entertainment.
Yeah.
I'd love that as an idea. The problem is it's like the very ending thing. I just wish they just leaned more into that.
Okay. Yeah. Totally fair.
I just wish it was more about, especially, like, the public in this movie is just nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
Like, we had zero relation between sort of, like, what does everyone know? And I'm not so much against, like, everything being in John Travolta's mind and everything in his point of view, but we also just spend so much time with, like, there's the entire digression with with a serial killer at the train station. There's the entire digression with, like, the men on the phone in the phone booths, that sort of thing. So it kind of breaks that idea of, like, we're all in John Travolta's head.
Yeah. That's all fair. I mean,
that being said, still gorgeous. Still has some great, wonderful B-movie, knowing ironic B-movie schlock.
Yeah.
And some pretty damn good filmmaking. Like, I love it when he's in the booth, and, like, I love it when, like, he finds, like, the pictures and he cuts up, like, and he photocopies them and tries to make a film out of them. I love all that. It's also kind of a great metaphor for, like, the phenomenon of found footage.
Yeah.
Not something we use it in term for, like, shit like the Paranormal Activity movies, but found footage as a literal. As, like, a literal thing. Like, there's an actual, like, avant-garde movement of, like, filmmakers taking footage found in basements and attics and, like, cut-ups from interviews and things just on the cutting room floor, like, meant for the rubbish bin found, and then sort of put up on screen. And, like, this is in some ways an homage to that. And you get behind that.
So,
it's a
Gary,
movie I have complex feelings about.
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah. Whereas I love it a little more unabashedly. Reed, what did you think?
I'm sort of with John on this one.
Okay.
You said you hated it at one point. Why is that?
I think it was because of the ending. Okay, so kind of a disclosure. There was at one point where I think one thing I was thinking was, fuck movies. Towards the end. And I think that's just how it sort of like, whereas you, Tyler, sort of like how, like, it turns cynical, and then it's like, actually, it all falls, his whole plan to solve it actually just fizzles out. Whereas I kind of wanted to like go through with it, especially because he was so close. And then also I had a problem with, like, how the serial killer, like, mashed up it, like, scheme of.
Well, I mean, your reaction to the ending sounds like you were pretty emotionally invested in this movie.
Yeah.
So,
Movies.
must have worked for you on some level.
Yeah.
Is that our final thoughts? Did you have any notes, Reed?
No, and I'll tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
So that's our thoughts on Blowout. I think we had some pretty nuanced opinions.
Yeah, this was fun. I think we liked Brian De Palma.
I think so. I'd be excited. Have you seen Untouchables?
No, I haven't.
Untouchables is a bit. It's far more Hollywood than either of these. But you get those kind of Brian De Palma touches, like the Robert De Niro beating someone over the head with a baseball bat. Like there's some like gruesome stuff in the movies. It also has like a great. It also has a great late Sean Connery performance. And it's pulpy in kind of all the right ways, but it's also got like a filmmaking elegance to it. Like there's this like grandiose like Battleship Potemkin homage in the middle of it. That's like just really well shot and well composed. So I think it's some really good Hollywood fun.
Oh, it's under 2 hours. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it actually, and because like De Palma is sort of leaning into dark stuff, leaning into violence, it actually has stakes. It actually has progression and an amping up. It's a proper Hollywood movie.
Okay, I'm here for that.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's also just gorgeous.
Yeah, I'll probably watch that at some point. I think the next Brian De Palma movie I really want to see is Dressed to Kill, which I've heard a lot of different things about. But Untouchables also sounds very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's his most Hollywoody movie. Can you think of anything else?
Not really. I mean, yeah, that sounds well. Mission Impossible. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of Mission Impossible,
yeah. So, do we want to continue this mini digression into directors who have done Mission Impossible movies?
Who's next again?
John Woo, who I know we did an episode about him, but there's more of his movies that I would be interested in exploring. And I know we all had a great time with The Killer, and especially Hard Boiled.
Is there any other ideas you wanted to bring up? Because I'm kind of lost for what I was thinking. I was thinking of something relating to New Hollywood, but now I'm just lost.
I mean, I've had a few different ideas.
I just thought of something, and we don't have to do it now, but it's just something that popped in the head. A Ralph Bakshi week.
Oh boy. Can we sit on that? We've been doing a lot of animation lately, and I kind of want to get back into the swing of things.
Certainly. I understand not quite wanting to dive in the Ralph Bakshi.
Oh boy. Am I going to have to finally see Fritz the Cat? That's a movie that's been like looming over me for a very long time.
I can't say any of his movies have been quite looming over me, but like he's a filmmaker I have passive interest in.
Just because I heard about that movie like when I was a kid, and I like read about it, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I mean,
all Ralph Bakshi movies have made me say at one point, like just hearing about them, what the fuck is this?
But I think we should save that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So, let's see. There's a couple Miyazaki. I know I just said I didn't want to do animation, but there are still a couple Miyazaki movies I still haven't seen.
You know, I can always get behind that.
Yes.
Still haven't seen Castle in the Sky.
Still haven't either.
Okay, what are some others you haven't seen? Because I'm going to try and like rank these.
There's that. I think it's only a few. I've seen actually. We were rewatching Princess Mononoke the other week. Which,
have not seen that. Still haven't seen that.
Oh, you gotta see it. I think that honestly that might be his best. Like that movie is just so like the sheer amount of like mythology building that is done in that movie is kind of incredible.
That movie is an epic far more than anything else. Because like with his other films, like especially things like Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away, you get this idea like you're just looking at through a porthole at like this world he's constructed. Whereas in Mononoke, it's like the full meadow put out in front of you, and you get to glimpse pretty much all of it.
Yeah, which is just I love that. I think the only ones I haven't seen are Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa, and Ponyo.
I think Castle in the Sky is by far the best of those.
Okay. I kind of figured as much. Let's see. We could always do. There's Sam Fuller. There's. Oh, I have Rough actually in my notes here, actually. There's Antonioni. Oh, man. There's.
No, man, I want to go back to John Woo.
You want to go back to John Woo?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
want to go back to John Woo. It's
Okay.
been too long.
So, would you like to do his kind of best-known Hollywood sojourn, which is the Nicolas Cage and John Travolta starring Face Off?
We were just talking about that today, and I would
yes.
love to do that.
Oh my god. All right, let's do it. Awesome.
There's some
Yes.
other things.
Let's see. So he has there's this earlier movie he made, I think it was when the first time he worked with Chow Yun-fat, called A Better Tomorrow. I think that's
Yeah, I
the
was
one.
looking at that.
I think that's the one where Chow Yun-fat like lights the cigarette with the burning dollar bill. If you've seen that image.
I would pay so much money to see that.
Okay, so you want to do A Better Tomorrow and Face/Off?
Another John Travolta vehicle.
Yeah.
I would fucking love to.
All
Yes.
right. Let's
I
do
need
it.
some John Woo in my life.
John Woo Part 2 coming your way.
Is it controversial to say? If I'm not mistaken, doesn't Face Off have the most Nicolas Cage performance of all time?
I feel like you'd have to have a debate about that to officially settle the
Okay.
score, but I think this is certainly in the running from what I understand.
Okay.
By the way, I really like Nicolas Cage, so this is going to be
Well, I do. Well, I
yeah.
do too. But like we all love him at Schlock.
we do.
He's a good source of memes.
He certainly is that.
Yes.
People love The Wicker Man.
People do. I'm not so sure about that. We should probably watch Vampire's Kiss at some point. I was thinking about this.
Oh, I would love to do that.
We'll get back to that. But anyway, John Woo, Face Off, Better Tomorrow. Look for that. Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Face/Off.
Hooray.
Well, I could say with confidence that
I'm gonna bring out that fucking goat thing again.
I've been watching. No, because I don't have it. This light.
It's a nice light.
It's disco. I think.
It actually almost color corrects your camera.
Okay, we better stop. I'm getting too much night fever. Okay.
That was good.